for sharing. Okay. So there we go. Bezrat Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. What a 2 weeks we've been having, eh? What a 2 weeks. Can only get better. With the such 2 weeks that we had, it can only go up from there. Bezrat Hashem. Um, okay, let me just pin me. Remove pin. What do you mean remove pin? No, I want to pin me. Pin. Okay, but I want to see you. How do I do this with seeing all of it? Okay, now I see at least a few of you. So it's very hard to run a program like when they're in the middle of like a war. And as you know, I've been putting a lot of content. I've just been just pumping out the shiurim and spreading them and because that's the call of the time. We each figure out what our resources are, what our like kochot are, and we want to give it to Am Yisrael. I'm a teacher, so that's what I'm doing. Aside from the money that's like nonstop giving, and aside from everything like all the chesed within the community, outside the community, whatever is needed, we're all there. But each one just figures out what their inner resources are, what their strengths are, and we want to give that also. So at Shevach, we decided that's it. Like this is what we do. We teach Torah. This course is on the schedule for Sunday night and was supposed to begin this week. Last week, I did not stick to the schedule, whatever the courses are. I just kept giving like just chizuk shiurim, whatever came to me that I wanted to share, mina shamayim. And today and this week, I'm going to try to be more disciplined with making it about the time, but keeping to the topics that are on the schedule. So before we jump into today's topic, Monday, 10 a.m. we start with Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. We're going to continue with Rav Teichtel's book. Of course, it's whatever's happening here in Israel is all about because Jews came back to Israel and we want to settle the land. So there's going to be a lot of content that way that's going to address what's going on today. Followed by Tehillim, because that's on the schedule. Tehillim on Mondays was meant to follow Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. And Wednesday, of course, is the Parsha and Tikkun class, followed by Shevach's class, followed by Rav Fink's class. And Thursday is Nechama Wells' class and Amuna Witt's classes. And I'm sure everyone's going to make it about the time, these times that we're going through. And this Sunday night 2-hour time slot, I wanted to give it as a 10-week series that I was going to be very strict about. It's only people who register, no drop-ins, because it's content that builds one on top of the other from week to week. And it's not going to be like so much of standalone classes, like the other classes that I give are all standalones, even though they're part of like a unit. And so I had a hard time, like, what am I going to do with, like, we're in a war, like, it's not normal what we're going through here. And I figured, okay, yada, I don't know what's going to be next week. I really believe that I need to give this course. It's very useful. But tonight is free. And like the rest of the classes are going to be free. But really, like I put the donation button, like link in the chat. Whatever you can do, whatever you can't, don't do. I'm giving it out and I'm going to leave it up to Hashem to bless this program and ask to be able to continue learning Torah together, whatever it is. I also put a link to the schedule of the week. Please review it, keep it beyond the chat, beyond this class. Now a little bit about this course. It's called Hitbonenut. Hitbonenut in Hebrew means thinking, contemplation. And the English that I came up with is mastering your thoughts, how to be masters of our thoughts. And I have to give credit to my teacher who taught me this course, Rav Asaf Biller from Oregon. This course I took with him. It's over several months, 3 hours at a time. And I asked his blessing if I could give over the course We spoke about it. He absolutely gave me his blessing. Even when I was in Montreal, it was all done remotely. I'm in touch with him here in Israel. So I'm giving you, it's all his chokhmah, Rav Asaf Biller, Shia Bari, okay? The sweetest Jew you ever met. We're all sweetest Jews you ever met. Seriously, we're all the sweetest Jews you ever met. But he happens to be my teacher, and he happens to be the sweetest Jew I ever met because he gave me so much Torah, and I'm full of gratitude to him. As I'm grateful for Rebbe Nachman, who was the sweetest Rebbe ever because he gave me so much, and Rav Ashlag is the sweetest because he gave me so much. But you know what I mean. Okay, so this course is useful because it teaches us how to think and not just be triggered responses, reactionary, random emotions taking over us, and we don't know how to relax ourselves, how to calm ourselves down, how to find our inner balance. We all want to live with inner balance and an even keel, and approach things with a level head, and not just be overtaken by all kinds of thoughts and emotions that then rule the day within us, within our inner environment. So mastering your thoughts, as I taught it, I learned it from Rav Asaf Biller. I mean, and he taught it. He quotes, and I'm going to share with you a lot of quotes. I don't know how much we're going to get today. It's the first class, and I intended to give it over 10 weeks, 2 hours at a time, so 20 hours. B'ezrat Hashem, you'll continue with me. But today's an introduction class. And Rav Asaf gleans from all over. Our Hasidic masters, the Zohar HaKadosh, Tehillim is full of eitzes, advice of how not to be led by fear, by anxiety, by hate, by all kinds of the what we call in Hebrew katnut demochin, like the small mentalities that rule us, the stuff of our emotions that we're not really proud when we fall into them, and then when we come out of them, we say, "Why did I react like that? Why? What? Where's my level-headed? Where's my logic? Where's all the Torah that I learned? That I behave with such a lack of faith when I fall into these small-minded thinking that lead me into constricted emotional spaces within me that don't let me breathe, and I'm not really behaving like an adult, and I lose it." And it seems like over time, a lot of times we sit ourselves down and we say, next time I'm not going to behave like that. I understand where I went wrong. That reaction is not good. To react with those reactions, to speak those words, to fall into the despair and the sadness, and then we we get another shear of a boost of emuna, and I'm saying I know all of that. So what's with the sadness and the despair and everything like that, and the fear and the anxiety? And I say, okay, so next time I'm not going to behave like that because I just had a good shear. But you know what? After like a whole maybe 3 days or a week, if you're lucky, 2 weeks, somehow those old patterns of thinking and behavior surface again, and we find ourselves in that small constricted place that leads us to nothing more than suffering, internal suffering, because we lost our compass. So this course, with the help of all the tzaddikim that we're going to be quoting, and it's so sourced in our sources, it's so much Torah, especially Pnimius Torah, especially the inner aspects of Torah, which is the Sod, which is the secrets of Torah, which is the Kabbalah, which is Hasidus. So much sound advice, so much insight into what makes us tick, to teach us that which we should know more than anything else, how we think. We've been thinking from the moment that we're born, but somehow nobody taught us how to think. And it's like we figure like it's automatic. We just think. But then we see that our thinking just leads us astray because there's patterns that come into play that were established within us from the time that we were very young. And it seems like that's the natural order of the day for us. And are we not meant to grow out of it, to mature out of those patterns? And the answer is yes. And so this course is meant to teach us how to understand process of thinking, that we can finally get ahead of the cart and understand that we don't have to be triggered responses to things. We don't have to be like what Rav Asaf says, like you put a coin in a coffee machine and you just put a coin and you don't like you know some mechanism puts something in process and like a few seconds later you're ending up with a cup of coffee and you don't really know how you ended up with the coffee, but you knew that there was a trigger to it. A coin went into the machine, voila. And on the daily, we have those type of things where we're generally level-headed, balanced people, but somehow something happens and we end up with a mood that 5 minutes before we never imagined that we'd be in that type of mood. What happened? What was the trigger? How come triggers work like that? What is the nature of a trigger, and why does a trigger affect me? A certain trigger, a certain word, a certain smell, a certain sight affect me in ways that don't affect other people? And how come other people have different triggers that affect me? And how come that trigger seems to be like the end effect of a trigger is an emotion and a thought process that takes over me that has absolutely nothing to do with the present. So somebody looked a certain way. So I smelled a certain thing. So I saw something. What does it have to do with the present that it completely sends me into my bed for 2 weeks? I can't get out of my bed. I'm so depressed. What is that? And so Bezrat Hashem will be able to understand this process. Okay, now some rules of the game here, the way I teach. I don't like to read chats when I teach, okay? I do like when you unmute yourself and say something. If your point is a point of clarification, like Yael, I didn't quite understand what you just said. Can you repeat it? Or is this what you meant? Tell me, like, am I on the right track? You're allowed to stop me for that. If you're going to stop me for your own mini shear within my shear, please don't do that. There'll be room for comments after the shear for you to reflect and add your own thinking. But I want it to be focused and so and if you don't know if you're off tangent or not, you can unmute yourself and ask me, and I'll tell you. I'm not going to deal with it now. It's off tangent. That's okay. Don't hold yourself back if you have a question, okay? Is that rule clear? You're going to unmute yourself and talk to me? Very good. Okay. Hitbonen means to contemplate. Hashem gave us a faculty of mind, a thinking apparatus here in our mind. We have Chochmah and Bina. Chochmah are ideas that are flash of ideas that come to us. Bina is the unpacking of a thought that just came to us as a flash. And from the looks of it, and it's not just because I heard it from Rav Asaf, but just being a teacher as long as I have, and dealing with people that think I know something that call me to be mitiyetz with me and take advice and stuff. We don't know how to contemplate. We don't know how to use this tool called Bina. Everything we need to figure out how to live our life in a balanced way, in a mature way, in a respectful manner in our own eyes, not to find ourselves in those ichi pichi places like, how did I end up? I'm so embarrassed from my own when we wake up from the drama, right? We fall into a drama, we sink in, we get into the sinkhole, but when we come out of it, like, what was that? That was so embarrassing. And so we're given the tools, and Hashem built us with the apparatus to be able to be mature thinkers. And so Bezrat Hashem, this class will help us get there. Okay, so about triggers. You know, before I talk about triggers, it could be like we're living in very tense times. And normally something that would maybe take a long time to surface from our subconscious, a fear and anxiety. We're living in heightened, tense times that, especially in Israel, if the siren is going on and we have to go into the safe room fast, things that we haven't dealt with, fears, anxieties that we haven't dealt with on the internal level, can send us to very extreme places within us, and it's very dangerous. And some people can handle it and some people can't handle it. What's the difference between the people that run to the mamad, to the safe room, and maintain their even keel? Not because they're indifferent, not because they don't understand what's going on, but just because they have a menuchat nefesh, they're settled within themselves, that they have a presence of mind to be able to handle it in calm. What's the difference between them and the people who seem to go into a panic? The answer, an offering of an answer could be, is that the people who have the calm either didn't go through traumatic experiences that embedded traumatic responses by way of fear and anxiety in their psyche, so they don't have those experiences that get triggered, or they are people that did the work and allowed throughout the years, through trauma therapy of one kind or another, to unpack those things that get heightened within them in a tense situation like fear and anxiety. And they gave them space. And so it's not trapped emotions that were never dealt with, but were like somehow shoved into our subconscious, undealt with. But lo and behold, when certain situations come, they surface. And we go through, from the moment of our youth, from the time that we're born, we're went through many experiences that left an indelible mark on our consciousness. I'm going to give you an example of a good trigger, of a good memory, a good experience that we had as children. Let's say, Bezrat Hashem, you had these experiences. If it's not with your grandmother, it's somebody else. But let's say, imagine a kid every day after school went to his grandmother's house. His grandmother was on duty until the parents came home, that this kid goes to his grandmother, and the grandmother, oh boy, she prepared cookies for them. So when he went into the house, she smelled the smell of cookies and yummy, delicious food that he liked, and a very nice rug that he would sit and play with all his toys. And she would shower him with embraces and kisses, and she would have a certain perfume on her, and even that made him feel so secure. And the whole experience, the sight of the grandma's home, the scent of the grandma's home, the tactile experience of everything that was around, the vision, the face of the grandmother, and being held, just everything about it was love and security, and a feeling of instilling self-confidence, all of that type of thing. Now let's say like this kid grows up His grandmother is like long not been around, passed on to the next phase of her life in the other world. And he hasn't smelled those cookies, and he hasn't smelled that scent of the home, and he hasn't seen that rug, and he hasn't played with those toys. And he wasn't in that environment for, let's say, like 60, 70 years. But somehow he'll go into an environment somewhere that all of a sudden a scent will be exactly like his grandmother's cookies. Something that he never thought about for 60, 70 years. All of a sudden, all of those feelings from the senses, from the scent, from the sight, from a word, from a look, from an experience, from an idea, from a word that was said that his grandmother would say to him. All of a sudden, he'd be transported back to this euphoric experience of Gan Eden when he was feeling so safe as a kid in his grandmother's home. How did that happen? Because every experience we go through leaves a mark on our subconscious, and we carry it within us, whether we are conscious of it or not conscious of it. But something will happen of a sensory nature or an idea that will prove to us that it was within us all these years. How do we know? Because something triggered the memory and transported us that we're no longer in the present, but we're back there in grandma's home. Now, that's a good experience. But we also have the negative experiences. Things that made us scared as kids. Things that filled us with anxiety. Things that were scary. Things that made us anxious. Things that filled us with all kinds of negative emotions. I'm focusing on fear and anxiety because this is the time that everybody seems to like these are the triggers of the day. Like this is what's surfacing for a lot of people now. But it works. Whatever I'm saying is like what triggers jealousy, what triggers hate, whatever it is. There is the Kabbalists call this memory of an experience that happened way, way back. Let's go back to the experience of the grandmother because it's a light experience. It's full of light and love. So the Kabbalists say that any vessel that contained light, that then the light left it, is left with an impression of the light within that vessel. The Hebrew word for it is reshimu. Reshimu is an impression, a roshem. So the negative experiences also happened in the past. I grew and left and developed as a whole functioning human being past those experiences of my youth. But there's a reshimu left on my subconscious, whether I'm consciously thinking of it or not, it's there. And the proof that it's there, that as soon as that person will look at me that way or say that word, it'll take me back to that very painful experience that I had as a child. And all of a sudden, I'm reacting very much like that 5 or 6 year old did, and I'm no longer this adult. It's surfaced. I'm not telling you things that you don't know. We're very aware of these things now. What I'm going to be offering in this class after we unpack it, because I have to go through the explaining of it. So we're all on the same page when I get to the solution of it. And the solution is quite shocking. Why does it happen? Why does it happen? But I still want to unpack. And like, is it a mechanism that Hashem put into place within us just to make our life miserable? This subconscious that brings up triggers to bring us to suffering? In our head, we know so much. In the flyer that I made for this course, there was in the background of it, there's the pasuk vayadata hayom v'shavot alavecha with a picture that I made a few years ago. Vayadat, things that you know, vayadata hayom, you should know today. V'hashavot alavecha, it's like a cable going down from the mind to the heart. because you want the heart to know what the mind knows. We have so much chokhmah in our mind. We know all of Torah. We know about Emunah. We know about Hashgacha. We know that Hashem is good. But then the siren happens. We open the news and we're like, we're gripped with fear and anxiety. And what happened to all of that Emunah? On the one hand, it's normal, of course, to be fear. But sometimes we're taken to a level of fear that's like disproportional, that knocks us out of our being able to cope. And what is that about? And why did Hashem make it so? Hashem is good. Why did he build us with that mechanism that's on the surface of things leads us to suffering? The answer is, it's not meant to lead us to suffering. So what are we supposed to do when we're suffering? That's how it works, right? We'll get to the answer. So you have to stick with me. I gave you a teaser, okay? That was like a little bit of a teaser, but I have to build it this way. I can't give you the end result before we build more. So we have a Roshan. This is how it works. And it's really, it's a wondrous system. The system of the subconscious and triggers. It's a pele. Really, it's a wondrous thing once we learn about it. That through our senses, from an experience we had way, way back, is impressed upon us a roshem, an impression that the same reaction we had as kids seems to surface as adults. Through our senses. And it works on our emotions. I'm going to say something, and I'm a mother, so I'm allowed to say it because I'm going to mention mothers. But one of the biggest reshima that a person has is a little cell within our subconscious called mother. Now, if you had a very good relationship with your mother and she was very nurturing, it's very beautiful. If you had a very troublesome and challenging relationship with your mother, then every time something reminds me of mother, it can send you into all kinds of frustrations and anger. Why? Why mother? Because mother was a constant experience of your life when you were a kid. So the longer the experience, this time I'm talking about stressful experience, the longer the distressing experience you experienced in a continuous daily basis, in a prolonged way, as a kid, not having the tools to understand mother, that she's just a damaged person and trying her best. No parent wakes up in the morning and says, how am I going to screw up my kid today? Nobody, I guarantee, nobody. No mother does that. But they try their best, and somehow we don't come with manuals, and something from their relationship to us hurts us. And the longer that experience lasts, so the stronger the reshima of that experience, which means the stronger the reaction on an emotional level that we're going to have as adults when we move away from it and we figure out how to live despite all of that. We manage to live our life like normal, right? We manage to move away from that, but then somehow you see Ima, you see mother on the cell phone and you know it's her, and you're like, all of a sudden your body's tense. And then you hear her voice saying, how are you? She asked, how are you? And you go into like, you're full of like frustration and anxiety. Nothing to do with the present. It's appropriate for a mother to call her daughter and ask, how are you? But because this has not been dealt with, the source, there's like in modern trauma therapy now, there's something called the body keeps the score. There's a memory. And until we unpack it, and I'm going to give you a solution, like brilliant, from David Amelech that I learned from Rav Asaf, of what you're supposed to do when these things surface in you. What's the solution? You see, you can go to IFS, and you can go to trauma therapy, you can go to compassionate inquiry, and you can go to, what's that called? All kinds of somatic therapies and cranial sync cranial, I can never say it properly, cranial sacral cranial, whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about. Whatever it is, right? Like you could do your yoga and everything, and you could breathe and everything. But somehow it's very good. You have to do it because and it works. And eventually you can be relieved from it. It's not a life sentence. But there's a simple solution also that starts with something that I'm going to share later. But so the longer the experience that you had in a prolonged way as a kid, developing an adaptive personality around this hurt that you were needed to protect yourself from this thing. So the harder it is, and the more often the subconscious is going to surface it and keep calling your attention. Now, what do people usually do when something uncomfortable surfaces from their subconscious? What usually happens? Like naturally, what usually happens? So there's it's like a process. As kids, we figured out how to survive the trauma. We figured out how to adapt, how to behave in ways that's not going to make mommy scream at me, let's say, right? And then that becomes a behavior, manipulative behavior, whatever it is, but it becomes who I am. Now, as we grow in adults, become more aware. Like as kids, we're not aware of it. We just go into instinct survival mode. Then we grow up, and those same behaviors, if we're mindful, we realize really that way that I developed to protect myself from scary experiences or bad experiences, it's not serving me anymore. As a matter of fact, the person might come to experience that mode of survival is now their jail, and they need to free themselves and not right, to free themselves from it, to separate themselves from those behaviors, to move away from that, because it's not helping them. It's their jail now, and it's just, as a matter of fact, increasing suffering, internal suffering. So from the first time they're aware of that, before they develop with this, the instinct, the animal instinct is fight or flight. I don't want to be in this painful situation. So what am I going to do? I'm going to either deny it, shove it deeper, and pretend it's not there. Or I'm going to run away to distractions, Netflix binging, I don't know, ice cream tubs, I don't know what, extreme sports. It could also be drugs, alcohol, other things, to avoid me feeling the pain. At a certain point in the development, hopefully, you're not going to stay there. You're going to realize this is nuts. I'm just running away from the problem. I'm not helping myself. I want to stop. It's not enough to run away and deny the problem or, pretend it's not there in any kind of method. I really want to be like those people that keep an even keel, that don't have these triggers. I want to connect with a mature place within me. I'm an intelligent person. So why do I keep going to those places of patterns of thinking and behavior that don't serve me? That's a good thought, because then you can start the healing process of turning the power of thought, instead of running away from what's surfacing within you to observing what's happening within you. To become an observer, an internal observer without getting sucked into the drama when it surfaces. Because what usually happens, a trigger happens, sending all kinds of alarms. Uh-oh, mother. Uh-oh, big menacing dog. Uh-oh, siren. I remember what happened last time. Uh-oh, the news. Panic. And then if we're not mindful, it'll send us into a whirlwind. We're sucked into a drama that when we're in the drama, forget about it. You're gone. Until it somehow something allows it to pass. Somebody tells you to breathe or whatever it is. But it's like external things that will need to help, or you sleep it off. You go to bed for like 3 days, you don't answer your phone, like you just like, like you're just shut out until somehow something healthy in you says, okay, wake up, it's enough. Get out of it already. You know what I'm talking about, right? I see Malka like Malka Sar going like this. The point is, when the thing to surface, how do we prevent ourselves from getting sucked into the drama? Because once we're sucked into the drama, and we know that the drama is not in the present, has nothing to do with the present. It has everything to do with the memory of what happened in the past, that something in the present is reminding me, and I'm just falling back on patterns of thinking and behavior that got embedded there involuntarily as a kid, because a kid didn't know how to survive anything better, and somehow we're there again. And it has everything to do with the past and nothing to do with the present. But we want to live in the present. Now, for those of you who, this past, when was it? What day is today? Boy, the days are so long. It's only Sunday. Shabbos was only yesterday. Crazy. Wow. So I don't remember last week. Was it Monday? No, it was Thursday morning. I gave Shiviti Hashem the Negdi Tami meditation. And we went through and I sent it to the emails, to the Shevach email. If you're not on the Shevach email list, in the chat, write me down your email so I can add you to the list should you want to be on the email list. Okay. So I sent around the video of the meditation, and a lot of what I'm going to do today in terms of the relaxing, in terms of the getting to the meditative stance, that is very helpful to having us not get sucked into the drama of things and become instead observers of our thoughts, instead of allowing the patterns just to take over us. You follow what I'm saying? Develop an observer stand of what happens internally. And when we become observers of our thoughts and of our emotions and our body's reactions to things, that's the first step towards gaining control and being able to allow those things from the subconscious to surface without going into the freak out and losing my mind mode. And that's part of the healing process. You know how when somebody coughs, they go to the doctor and the doctor says, "What's wrong with you? Why are you here?" "Because I'm coughing. I'm sick. I'm coughing." A bad doctor would say, "Here's a cough suppressant, so you can stop coughing." What the naturopaths know is that coughing, it's good. It means that you have phlegm. There's something there that needs to be expelled, and it's a natural healing property of the body to vomit things that shouldn't be in your system because you ingested something that shouldn't be there. to cough something that's blocking something, but we consider these things as being sick. Why? Because when we cough, it interferes with our breathing. But we misinterpret the coughing as a sickness instead of seeing it as part of the healing process. Getting a headache is the same thing. Headache is not a sickness. It's an indicator that maybe you didn't drink enough, or maybe you should go rest because you went too long without sleeping. All of these symptoms that we call being sick are just tools, beautiful healing, part of the healing process that God built us with, to allow us to understand there's something that needs to be taken care of. If we ignore a cavity, chas v'shalom, it's going to turn into a root canal. Nobody wants a root canal. We need to brush our teeth regularly. We need to not avoid. You don't handle a toothache by pretending it's not there. That's not how we handle physical pain. Pain is our friend. Hashem built it into the system to allow the person to understand that something needs to change in the way we handle ourselves. Eat better, sleep better, take care of you, go for walks, swim, see nature, listen to music, see beautiful things. It's the same thing in our emotional realm. When something surfaces in our nature, fear, anxiety, jealousy, hate, whatever, this is part of a healing system in our emotional spiritual realm that says something is off and you need to pay attention and bring healing to that place that is hurting and just coming up as jealousy, anger, fear, etc., etc., etc. A bad way to handle it is hate it and say, oh no, here's anxiety again. Oh no, here's fear again. And then we identify with those bad emotions. We consider them bad because, they make us feel bad. And then we get sunk into a drama either of mishandling them by avoiding them and getting angry or whatever it is, sucked in, as opposed to what are we supposed to do? What else are we supposed to do with it? So here's coming a bit of like the solution, and we're going to go to David HaMelech. In today's class, we're gonna see what David HaMelech's insight says about it, and we're gonna Bezrat Hashem also look at the Pietzetsna Rav, because he was a master of explaining to us the subconscious and about our thinking. And in other weeks, we're going to go into the Baal Shem Tov, the Zohar Kadosh, Rabbi Nachman, Tanya, a lot of different other sources. And we're always going to go back to Tehillim because David HaMelech, who experienced everything under the sun in terms of what a human being can experience, who was always on the verge, experience that could have led him to anxiety, feeling forsaken, feeling worthless, hated, whatever it is. He had good moments too, but so much of Tehillim is the enemies are coming after me. And somehow he manages to find a place of bitachon. But what was his method? So I'm going to share with you a Tehillim here. Where's the paper? Here. I'm going to share with you like 3 psukim. 3 psukim. The first pasuk comes from Tehillim 37:10. Tehillim Lamed Zayin Yud. David HaMelech says like this, and this is his eitzah when things get surfaced to help us, give us an alternative to getting sucked into the drama. Ve'od me'at ve'ein rasha v'idbonanta al mekomo ve'einen. A little longer and there will be no wicked man. You will look at where he was At Hitbonenut means I don't like this translation. I should have caught it. And you will contemplate on its place. Let me change this now. Uh, okay, let me forget this annotating. How do I ah okay. You will contemplate on its place. Ve'eneno, and he will be gone. Okay. What's the wicked man? A rule from Chassidus. Whenever David HaMelech had for real, like flesh and blood, real enemies that wanted him dead. But according to Chassidus and the Zohar Kodesh, every time David HaMelech mentions either a tzaddik or a rasha in Tehillim, he's not talking about the tzaddikim from the neighborhood of tzaddikim that you can go visit and there's a tzaddik. And he's not talking about Rashaim, evil people that are without in evil land. Let's call it Aza right now. He's also talking about the tzaddik and the rasha within him. We're all walking around with the tzaddik and a rasha that surface every so often within our psyche, within our consciousness. Ve'od me'at ve'in rasha. A little longer, and there will be no wicked man. A little while, just wait a little bit, and you'll see that the rasha within you. Who are we calling the rasha? The thing that part of us that's sending us to small mentalities of hate and jealousy and anger and frustration and fear and anxiety and all of those things that are keeping ourselves from our higher self, which is the neshama. These are parts of us that somehow developed independently, according to IFS, as protectors, of managers to protect us from pain when we were kids, but now as adults, they became something that traps us, but it's still called a rasha because it's not keeping away from our higher self, which seems to be exiled somewhere within us. If we want these reactions to stop surfacing, what does he say? First of all, wait. Create a distance of waiting before you fall into the drama. Something surfaced, a trigger, you notice the sensation in your body, the tension in your throat, the fist clenching, the sweat happening. You're aware of the fear in your heart. You're aware of the thought, oh my gosh, I'm doomed. Od me'at. Just wait on getting sucked into identifying with all of these things as if they are you. Like, you know how we're taught, don't say, I'm angry, say, I have anger. That type of thing. Being sucked into the drama means I am total anger right now. I'm completely that anger. I'm completely that fear right now. And he's first, David HaMelech, saying, Odmat, shwaya shwaya, as I say in Arabic, leat leat. In a little bit, then one. And what's going to make that evil person, those small mentalities from taking over our mind? Vihitbonanta. And you will contemplate on its place. You'll see that he'll be gone. What is David HaMelech saying here? He's saying, develop an observer stand. Instead of identifying with all of those physical, emotional, and the thought that seems to like taking over, observe them. Sit yourself down, breathe, and as if you're watching a movie, here's Yael, and here's Yael when she's angry. Here's Yael when she's, hello, anger, hello, fear. Oh, so when Yael is in fear, this is the thought she has, that it's all finished. No hope. And here's Yael in the emotional area. This is what Yael feels when fear comes up, the emotion is she wants to run away. She she's and this is what her body feels when she feels fear. There's a like a I don't know what do people fear? I don't really I took the I'm saying it about myself, but I don't like there's a fisted like somebody like a hard knot in my stomach, my throat clenching, the tears welling up, the tension all over my body. Become an observer as if you're watching a movie. Now, it's very hard to do on the moment in the trigger. So the eitzah is in a sterile lab conditions when you're not in that position. We know ourselves. We lived long enough with ourselves to know that this is what we are. I had an experience yesterday in the mamad. I don't want to repeat that experience. So now that I'm not in that experience, when I'm like kind of have my level headed about myself, I'm going to sit myself down and I'm going to breathe. I'm not going to go into the whole breathing exercising today, but watch the Shiviti Hashem meditation that I sent you in your email for that. But in other classes, I want to integrate exercises. Maybe we'll do an exercise. Maybe we'll have time between now and in the end. But right now, I don't want to interrupt what I'm telling you now. Sit yourself down, breathe, anchor yourself with breathing. And then when you're relaxed, call up the memory of when you were gripped with this drama, but this time you're not in the drama, you're just recalling it as a memory and you're observing these were my thoughts, these were my emotions and feelings, and this is what my body felt like. And you do nothing else but observe. Because David HaMelech says, Ve'od me'at ve'ein rasha, hitbonanta al mekomo ve'eineno. Just become the observer. Allow the feeling to surface. Because the surface feelings that we don't like to have, that in the past, before learning about this, sent us into bad situations within ourselves and bad reactions that we're not proud of, that didn't serve us. The solution is it's knocking on your door because it wants to be seen. You have been walking around with this experience that has not been held. Nobody held, you didn't give it space. All these protectors came, all these internal managers and protectors came to protect you as a child with good intention, but it became part of your personality. And you have to say to it, thank you for your years of services. I'm giving you from IFS now. Thank you for your years of service, but I don't need to go there anymore. I want to bring more of myself into the experience. I want more of my neshama to be seen. And as long as my protectors and my managers are sending me to these protective places, okay, do drugs now, eat the ice cream now, punch in the face now, whatever it is, go to bed and suck my thumb for 3 days, whatever it is. You say, can you please trust me that I want that the pain that's surfacing within me now is not going to kill me. I want to be face to face with it. I don't want to avoid it. I don't want to run away from it, because avoiding it, running away from it with all the protectors and managers, I'm never going to mature out of it, and I will forever be trapped in exile. Who's the I? The neshama, the higher self that can think in a level-headed way and bring in the opportunity of different patterns of behavior and thinking. When these experiences come up, I don't want to be that 5-year-old again. And so we want to give ourselves permission, and with bravery and with courage, to sit down and observe the pain. It's very painful. Feeling like my mother always favored my brothers, and the trigger that it has made me feel like I'm not worthy like every other person, and now I have to prove that I'm worthy from all kinds of weird ways. Or nobody ever told me I'm pretty, so now I have to like the whole life walk around pretend like attracting attention from people in all the wrong ways. No, I don't want to be that anymore. I want to be who I really am meant to be, my neshama, my pure neshama. So when the pain surfaces, the first thing that David HaMelech says is, become an observer, understand that this is what's happening. A painful experience from the past, a memory of it just surfaced, nothing to do with the present. Don't run away from it. Running away from it is like taking the cough suppressant. It's like pretending you don't have a headache because you took a Tylenol and you're not fixing your lifestyle in a way that's going to get rid of the headache. It's surfacing for a reason, to be dealt with. It wants to be seen. And it's very stubborn, our subconscious. And it's part of the healing process. Hashem built it in so that we can then come closer to Him, come close to ourselves through the choshech, through that bad experience to come into the light. And the first thing is observe it. And with time, David HaMelech says, you'll see at a certain point when you give it the space, even doing nothing else, just allow it to surface and give it space, respect it. You went through something as a kid. And you're allowing that child to say, that really is scary. And you're going to say, I know, my little child, but as an observer, not as a helpless little child going to those, survival techniques. You're saying, I see. And you could even cry for yourself with empathy that you went through such a thing. So I'm going to screen share again. We're going to go to another pasuk from Tehillim. You see Rashi even on this pasuk here. I didn't give it to you, but we just did. Ve'od me'at, Rashi says, if you wait just a little bit, and according to this Perush, waiting a little bit means allowing yourself a space between the experience and your reaction. Just wait. And you'll see that Rasha, that small-mindedness will not be there anymore. You'll contemplate on its place. And you'll see, you'll observe on that place. And you'll see that he's not there anymore. It'll be dead and gone. Because you've dealt with it, it doesn't have to surface anymore because you held space for it. It's not going to happen the first time you do it. It's not going to happen maybe the 50th time you'll do it. But eventually, with time when you'll do it, by training yourself to be an observer, before getting sucked into the drama, you will see that what will come up within the observation is murmurings of your hearts of says how else you can handle the situation. Your own heart will offer solutions, will offer insight. Shlomo HaMelech, one of my favorite psukim in Mishlei is, how does it go? Deep waters, advice in the heart of man, v'ish tvunot yidlena, and a contemplative person can go deep and draw them out, these eitzes. Within everybody, we have all the answers that we need. Everything. All the answers. A good therapist doesn't tell you what to do. A good therapist sends you within yourself to find the answers that already exist within yourself. Because we have everything we need within ourselves. So if you become the observer, Eitza, what, how do I, Eitza Muka? It's, Mayim Amukim, Eitza Belevich, Mayim Amukim. Deep waters is an Eitza within, deep waters is the advice that a person seeks within the heart. And the contemplative person, V'ish Tvunot, Tvuna from Hitbonenut, Bina, Yidlena will draw them up. You have to be mitbonen. You have to become an observer. In the language of the Baal Shem Tov, this is called hachna'ah. The Baal Shem Tov explains this as a threefold method. Hachna'ah, havdalah, and hamtaka. Maybe some of you heard it before. Hachna'ah, hamtaka, no, hachna'ah means you give into the process. You don't fight it. Fighting the fear and anxiety, as we know, is just going to intensify fear and anxiety. Fighting any negative feeling that you have by saying I have to go all out war against it, it'll backfire on you. It's bigger than you. You don't do battle with your small-mindedness. Doesn't work. You first have to have hachna'ah. Hachna'ah means you have to submit. This is the matzav. There's hurt in me that's surfacing. There's fear in me that's surfacing. There's pain in me that's surfacing. I'm not going to run away from it. I'm not going to pretend it's not there. I'm not going to numb it with all kinds of substances. I'm going to allow it to surface. I'm going to submit to the pain because that's part of the healing process. That's hachna'ah. Because unless you allow it to be, you can't be an observer. The second step is havdalah. You make a separation between you and the pain. You make a distance by what Rav Asaf calls by taking on the emdat hamidboneh and the observer stand within you. You just become an observer of it. This is Yael in pain right now. Whatever the pain is, okay? These are her thoughts. Three things. You have to become an observer of the thoughts, because eventually what we want to get to is the programming to change the program from what was in the past that led us to a no good place to a different. We want to replace it with a pattern of thinking, a healthier pattern of thinking and a healthier pattern of behaving, of emotional reaction. So we have to become observers. What are my thoughts when this pain surfaces? What are my emotions? And you name them, like you become verbal about them. And these are the body sensations. This is what my body feels. This is like, my hands, my tummy, my neck, my eyes, whatever it is. And you become an observer. That's havdalah. That's the second thing. You make a distance between you and the drama. Eventually, Baal Shem Tov says you will get to hamtaka. Hamtaka from matuk. You will get to a place of sweetness within you. The pain will become less of a sting. Again, it's over time. It's a process. We develop, how old are we? 40, 50, 60, 70. These are patterns. But it starts with a simple solution of a healing property that Hashem implanted within us, that instead of going into freak out mode when these painful emotional situations grip us, we don't say, oh no, not that again. And we go right back to our patterns. We say, hello, pain. What do you have to tell me today? I'm here to listen. I'm here to listen. I'm here to observe. Eventually, you keep on with that exercise, you will get to a sweetening of the experience. So I'm going to share again. And what is that? How come the place is talking to me? Oh my gosh. Why does that do that? Oh boy. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. Um, I don't know where what happened. Okay, so I'm gonna share with you another two psukim. If you want to continue with this course, really, it's going to be such amazing things. It's 2 hour session. You have to like I'll give you a break. I'm not going to go probably for 2 hours this time, but I'm giving you a taste, and well, there'll be a break. Okay, eventually. This is not what I wanted to screen share right now. I'm working on the psukim. Two more psukim from David Amelech. Okay, the next pasuk is this one. Tehillim 92, 7 and 8. Okay. Ish ba'ar lo yada uchsi lo yavin et zot. This is an introductory pasuk to the next pasuk. David Melch is saying, I'm going to teach you something that most people don't think about. Ish ba'ar means a brutish man, like somebody who doesn't normally think. Lo yada, brutish man doesn't know this. Uchsi lo yavin et zot, and a fool cannot understand this. But he's really calling all of us fools and brutish, because he's really what he's saying is, if you don't stop to think about it, it's not something that would naturally come to you, your understanding. He's saying, and I'm going to reveal that which most people, it's lost on them. I'm going to teach you a fundamental truth about who we are as human beings. What is it? Bifroach reshaim, let me move this up. Bifroach reshaim kmo esev, veyatzitzu kol polei aven lihishamdam adei. Though the wicked sprout like grass, bifroach reshaim kmo esev, though the wicked sprout like grass, though all evildoers blossom, veyatzitzu kol polei aven, it is only that they may be destroyed forever. What is David Amelch saying is, why is he comparing evil people to Esef, to grass? We know the grass grows fast. It just needs a little bit of moisture and poof, it comes up. But just as fast as it came up, it also withers fast. Evil people, and the evil people, he's talking about the evil people within us, the small-mindedness, the emotions that trap us, that keep us in a place of suffering because somehow we can't get in front of them, and they lead the cart, and they just dictate how I am as a person. I think that's how I am. I'm always going to be jealous. I'm always going to be this, that, and the other thing. He says, no. When the evil people within us, those voices, those emotions that trap us, when they surface, know that they are like grass. They're not meant to take over the whole system. They surface. And although evildoers blossom, these evildoers, but they surface in order to be destroyed forever. They just have to allow them to surface. And then you'll see, by allowing them to surface and not fighting them and not shoving them again in a way that you're not going to deal with them, or running away to avoiding, with all kinds of distractions or numbing effects. If you allow them to, they surface. Why are they surfacing within you? We think to say, Hashem, don't you like me? Can you just allow me to stop feeling these painful thoughts? And Hashem is saying, but I'm giving you the opportunity to get rid of them forever from within your midst. Allow them to surface. They are like grass, and they will wither if you will just allow them to surface and not fight them, and observe them and learn from them, and have compassion over yourself, and stop identifying with them. Because if you're fighting them, you're saying in a big way, they are parts of me that I don't like, and I don't want them surfacing within me. And he's saying here is, no, it's a hurt part of you that just needs to be acknowledged. And you'll see that once you acknowledge them, as they surface, so they will wither. If you have questions, it's a good time to question now. Here's the third pasuk. He says in another, Tehillim is all full of this. Like really, like David Amelech, he's a master psychologist here. He's a master of soul because he did the work, and he's giving us his eitzes. He's sharing with us. This is Tehillim 96. Baboker yatzitz v'chalaf le'erev v'imulel v'yavesh. At daybreak, it flourishes anew. By dusk, it withers and dries up. The same thing. He's referring in the context of this parak. Things surface not to end up, not as a life sentence. They surface so that we can deal with them, and then they'll be gone. Hello, anger. L'chaim. Now I know you're there. What do you want to tell me? I'm here to listen. As an observer from my higher self. I'm observing my thoughts, my emotions, my physical sensations. Eventually go. Now I'm going to share with you from the Piatetzna Rav, the Eish Kodesh, Kolonimus Kalman Shapira. And he says the same thing. And you know the background of Eish Kodesh, right? He didn't survive the Holocaust, and he left amazing works that deal with the working mechanisms of our thoughts and our subconscious. He was a master of thoughts. And in the book called Hachsharat HaAvrechim, which I'm going to be quoting now, in a lot of ways, in a lot of places, he says he's teaching how to be Baal Nefesh, master of your own self. To have mastery over self. So one of the very insightful passages, the whole book is insightful, but I brought here for you. Hachsharat Evrechim. Okay, so here it is. Okay, let me get my spotlight. Okay. So this is from Perek Tet, chapter 9, page 119 from the Hebrew volume. V'tires chok ubadam. He says, this is like a joke with people. Chok ubadam. It's to laugh at. If a person tries to deal with, a murmuring of the heart, some feeling that surfaces within, like feelings that we were talking about. Something surfaces within the heart. If it's like a feeling, a sensation of from the imagination, whether it's something of a will of a person, like a desire, a will of a person, or an emotion, whether it comes from the imagination or the desire of a person or a feeling, ahava, yirah, or shar midot, whether it's something that we feel love towards, like an attraction towards something, or yirah, or fear, like we want to separate from them, we want to stay away from it, or any other midah. And if he would try to deal with his thoughts around it, if he engages with the thought, if he becomes engaged with the thought, if he becomes the thought and the feeling and the desire and the emotion that surfaced within him, so through the treatment of engaging with that thought that surfaced, or feeling, or imagination, or what else did he mention? Or ratzon, a desire. It's only going to intensify that thought, that feeling, the thing. If we give it all the space in our mind, if we allow it without the observer stand, without becoming an observer, if we become completely identified with those things, it's just going to make things intensified. Yitchazek v'yitaragesh yoter. The person will, this thought, feeling, whether it's imaginary or real thought, wherever it's coming from, like a conscious thought or from the imagination or reta, it's just going to intensify chazek v'yitaragesh yoter, and a person will get more excited within it, and really, before you know it, it's PTSD sunken into a dramatic experience. It has nothing to do with the present, everything to do with the past, but you're lost. But if you don't become engaged, become one with that thought, but rather you observe the thought and you're thinking about the thought. You're not the thought anymore. What's an example of this? What's an example of this? Before I continue translating, I'll come back to it, okay? Let's say I went to the bank and the bank teller was so rude and got me really angry, whatever, okay? And I came home and I'm speaking to a friend and I'm telling it's just happened to me, so I'm still with the emotions, and I'm telling the friend exactly what happened, and I'm like in that bank. I'm like, no, it's like I'm talking to my friend in my kitchen now on the phone, but like as I'm telling the story, I'm in the bank. It's as if like my thoughts, my feelings, my emotion, I'm like as if I'm there, PTSD. Okay. Now, let's say a day passed and I'm sitting on my couch and I'm not thinking about it. But as soon sorry, but as soon as I take my Tehillim or Siddur, you know what happens when we take our Siddur? Then all the nonsense thoughts come up. Somehow, instead of working on like concentrating on words of the Siddur, the bank teller comes into my head, and I'm lost again. I'm in that moment. I'm completely in that experience. That's what it means. Like a thought comes to your mind, an emotion comes up, a sensation is triggered, and and I'm lost to it. And he says, so what's the solution? Here, I'm gonna screen share again. What we need to do is create that separation to think odot harechesh. Think about the experience. Odot hadimion, about. Odot means like you're giving thought about the experience you had. You're thinking about the teller. You're not there in the bank anymore, but you're recalling the experience from a distance, from an observer stand. Odot haratzon, odot ahava. You're thinking about the ratzon or the love or the year of the fear that you had. As adraba de tipula machshava. And this way, you're really treating the machshava, the thought, odoto. And when you're thinking about the thought, but you're not allowing the thought to consume what's going on in your head, there's no other thought other than that. You didn't create this experience of hachna'a and havdalah. He says here, yikalesh harechesh af yichda legamre. That feeling, that sensation, that thought, yikalesh will become weaker with time, eventually, and won't be there anymore. Because as you're thinking about your, like the first time you're telling you just got out of the bank, your phone, your friend phoned you and you're talking about, okay, maybe you can understand, you're still within the experience. The day after, okay, you should get over it, but it's still like you're having the reverberations of that awful experience. But a week later, that's not normal. It shouldn't be. And he's saying the more you become the observer of that experience, you sit yourself down, you breathe, you close your eyes, you recall the experience, but this time as an observer. Eventually, the first time you might do it, you might be sucked into the drama. But eventually, what should happen is always like try to become the observer, gently bring yourself back. I'm not into the drama now. I'm observing now. Remind yourself that I'm the observer. The 10th time that you'll do that, the 20th time you'll see it lost its sting. It lost its pull, the attraction. You will not be there anymore. You'll be able to remember the experience, but you won't be living in the past of it. You'll be living in the present, just remembering an experience, and what's going to rule your mind and thoughts and feelings in that moment is your present self that is in control of your thoughts and your feelings. ולא הטיפול לבד, רק גם ההסתכלות בעצמה שאדם מסתכל במחשבתו על איזה רכש אשר בקרבו, אף על מחשבתו מכה את הרכש ואת המחשבה. He says, and don't think this is only this is a treatment observing, eventually what will change with this treatment of being the observer is that your whole mode of thinking, of approaching these situations will be completely changed also. Like eventually it'll fade from, it'll the effect of it will fade. And with time, a magical thing will happen is that you'll notice that you're in that going to be in the exact same situation because you've allowed yourself the process of becoming the observer, giving yourself respect enough to face the abuse that you had to live through with that bank teller, the debasing behavior, whatever, the insulting situation. Eventually, you'll find yourself in the exact same situation. And because you've dealt with the hurts, the same trigger can happen and you're not triggered anymore. Because you practiced when you weren't in a dramatic situation of how to handle it maturely. But it first becomes understand the process that's going within you. Why did that teller bother you anyway? Because she reminded you of this bully you had in kindergarten that made your life miserable and sent you crying to your mother every day that you didn't want to go to school. And that teller, maybe it was her name, maybe it was something else, just took you every time you see that name. I don't know what. You understand what I'm talking about? It's like, and you'll unpack by becoming an observer of the process that's taking place within us. Become the observer, and eventually you'll be able to naturally catch yourself becoming more of an observer as things happening. And it's a very healthy thing because that's the first step towards gaining control of the cart and not always being led by patterns of thinking and behavior that we don't want anymore, I know that long gone, we should have like matured out of it. So that was a lot. I'm willing to go with you, like to give you a bit of a breathing exercise now if you want, or if you had enough, and we'll do it like next week. Let's take a vote. Let me go into gallery view. I want to hear, like, so far, if you have questions, if you have questions, if you have reflections, and do you actually want to have a breathing exercise? Yeah? Okay.
I have a question.
Okay, Shoshana Ruth, and then we'll do the exercise.
So the things you've been talking about that we're referring back to has been in this Gilgul. Can this work with Begaim that we have from previous Gilgulim?
Okay, I'm going to say something about that. Anything from a previous Gilgul that you have to still deal with because it wasn't dealt with in a previous Gilgul, it's going to have this lifetime script to it that you will be able to give that item this lifetime cause and effect. You know what I'm saying? If give me an example. Shoshana Ruth, give me an example of a previous lifetime thing that you had to be born with and now deal with.
So if one of these fears that come up or these reactions is say to nighttime or when it gets dark.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so okay. So it could be like what you're saying is you're born in a very nurturing family and they always kept you cuddled and you have no reason, you were never left alone, and you were protected from thunderstorms and you never experienced anything, like you don't have this lifetime experience to explain to you why you have a certain fear and you're saying it's from a previous thing. Does this method of becoming the observer, it can. I'll tell you why it can. Because as you become an observer of this fear, you're paying attention to the thoughts that are running through your heart when this fear grips you, okay? Either nighttime or whatever it is, right? Sirens or thunder or loud thunders, I don't know what. Vicious dogs, I don't know. Okay. You're becoming, you first of all, you're observing. Uh-oh. I'm recognizing fear in me right now. Hello, fear. And you're not running away from it. You're then going to become an observer saying, when this surfaces, this is the thought that I have. Run for your life, otherwise you're going to be dead. I don't know what, okay? The emotion is, what's the emotion? What's an emotion? Shoshana Root, help me.
Yeah, it's fear.
Fear, which causes my heart to stop, my blood to drain, whatever the body feels. You're becoming an observer of that. Now, becoming an observer of that means you're respecting what's going internally within you and you're giving it space to express itself. That in itself will already give a compassionate, safe space for yourself to be living, and you're offering that safe space to yourself. You're empathizing with it. Eventually, you could offer it comfort. It's too much for that now. With later sessions, I'm going to get into it more. You understand? With later sections, we're going to deal with all kinds of situations. And now, this method is not the only method. It's one of dealing with what's internally happening to us. It's a tremendous tool. It's a necessary tool. But along this, you add prayer, you add tshuva, you pray before. I'm about to go into a Hitbonenut. May it, like, please Hashem, may it be successful. May it allow me to come in touch with things in a mature way, to get to move away from patterns of thinking and behavior that have been trapping me. I want to be more in the light. Bezat Hashem, bless this method, bless this exercise I'm going to go into. Whatever the issue is, you can be, if there's a specific thing, like bring names of people, whatever. And after the process, you end with the tefillah. Thank you for the opportunity to sit here and do this. And there's, of course, tshuva. If I know that part of my behavior, my feelings that surface is unresolved tshuva that I need to do, that I didn't ask forgiveness for my sister, that every time she passed me, I pulled down her braids and made her cry, and that caused a trauma in her. That doesn't, like, jump every time somebody comes close to their hair. It's like they jump, like, what is that? Whatever it is, do the tshuva. I don't know why. I don't know where that came from. Like that example, I really honestly. But eventually we'll unpack more and more. Okay, so now, what's an observer stand? Sterile conditions. It means that you're not in a dramatic. You're not in a drama. You're practicing the method. So then when sticky situations happen, you'll already be practiced. You'll know to calm yourself down by this method. Waiting to do this when you're in drama, Rav Asaf says, is like jumping behind a wheel of a speeding car, trying to learn how to drive under those conditions. Doesn't work. You go to you get into a parked car in a safe parking lot not too many cars, and then you slowly figure out the ignition and the pedals. You don't jump to learn to drive in a moving vehicle. It doesn't work that way. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So sterile lab conditions, you're sitting. So now it has everything to do with breathing because breathing comes, and I spoke a lot of more in that video and like the meditation spiel that I did. But okay, so close your eyes because what you want to do is relax the mind. And we relax the mind. I'm going to say something. What we want to do, you know how you have a fan with blades that, you turn it on and the blades go fast, 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 and you can't see the blades because they're all a blur. They all blur into one another. By slowing down the speed of the fan, you get to see more of the individual blades that make up the blades that make up the fan. This is what we want to do. We want to slow down our thinking, that the thinking is not racing and then deciding for ourselves, for us, the reactions that we're going to have because it's so used to running to those patterns. We want to slow down the thinking to get to that subconscious place that it surfaces in a way that we can observe it and Bezat Hashem deal with it in a different way than we've been doing up until now. Breathing has a way of slowing down. Mindful breathing, we're aware of the breathing. So you breathe first, you sit comfortably, scan your body for any tension. If there's tension around your eyes, your cheeks, your jaw, your hands, put them in a comfortable place. If you have eyeglasses, you don't need them on your face. Comfortably rest the feet on the floor. If you see any tension anywhere in your body, just be aware of it and relax it. Your shoulders, relax. Breathe in and out of your nose, very slow, deliberate breaths. Deep breaths in your nose, and then hold it for a split sec, and then exhale slowly, slowly, and you're observing. Slowly let the air out because that maximizes the oxygen in the body. And you're observing it. You're becoming now like let's say you be holding a flower that you're looking at. You came across a flower and you're observing its colors, its shape, its how the wind goes. What you're observing now is your breath. It's the object of your thinking. You're slowing down the racing of the mind by concentrating on your thinking. So you're becoming aware of the breath going in and out of your nose, the subtle sound that it makes, the whistle. You're becoming aware of how the chest, with deep breaths, how the chest fills up and with the exhale goes down. You're observing breathing, every neshima. You're becoming more and more mindful. And should a thought surface, you're just going to let it gently float away. A memory of what happened today, what you ate today, who you spoke today. It's not the time for that now. Allow it to surface and then gently move away and come back to your breathing. Breathe. 3 more very deep breaths. And now, when you get comfortable with the breathing, see what floats from the subconscious, what kind of thoughts, but don't stay stuck on any one thought. Allow it to surface, observe it, and then float away. If it's a good thought or a bad thought, allow it to surface and just move away like on a screen. And with this, you're practicing not getting sucked into a drama of a particular scene, because what you want is to become an observer of your thoughts and not the preoccupation of the thought that's surfacing. Just become the observer of your thoughts. If a thought comes up to you, it's kind of a little bit stubborn. So become the observer about it. If it's you, become the observer of you. What are you thinking? What is it that you're thinking? What is it that you're feeling when these thoughts come up? Or if it's a predominant feeling, what is the feeling that's predominantly there? And what are the accompanying thoughts that come to that? Observe it and become aware of them and become aware of the body. How does the body react when these emotions surface and when these thoughts surface? Be careful not to be the preoccupation of the thought, but rather the observer of the thought. No judgment, no criticism. This is not a time to criticize or judge what's surfacing within you. You're just allowing it to surface and observe it and give it space. No comment, no judgment, no critique whatsoever. If you find yourself too preoccupied with the thought, say that's not the time now. Gently allow it to move on and make space for the next thought that's going to float up. And the recommendation is to get into the practice of this, is to do this 5 to 10 minutes every day. Between now and next session, 5 to 10 minutes every day. When you're ready, feel yourself sitting back in your chair. Wiggle your fingers. Take another deep breath, bringing awareness of where you're sitting and holding. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. I mean, that was like pretty fast, but that's the idea. Any questions about what we just did now? It's clear? Now, the more you're practiced with this method, with this sitting with yourself, taking pause, it's very important to do it in a calm stand, sitting position, because otherwise the mind races. And with these classes, we're going to speak more about how the mind works. There's a pasuk from Vayikra, ve'esh tukat tamid ala mizbeach. Our thoughts, I don't know what the scientists say, how many thoughts per second we have, but it's an enormous amount. An enormous amount. And this method teaches you how to, the secret behind meditation is to slow down the thinking to observable bites, scenes, like, like those old film screens, like what do you call them? Film strips. Each one had like its own like screen. You want to be able to slow down the process of thinking. So the pasuk that I mentioned is Esh tukat tamid al mizbeach. There's always fire on the mizbeach. There's always fire burning on the mizbeach. The mizbeach is the mind that's always being refueled. And when you don't have something to think about, the subconscious will fuel it with things for you to think about. We'll throw things in. It's constantly feeding. The mind always has to work. So if you're not deliberately, consciously deciding what to think about, the subconscious is going to send things for you to think about. And we want to become master of our thoughts, that our thoughts, our visualizing soul, and our mindful thinking will be on the things that we want to think about and how we want to think about them, as opposed to just the horse leading the cart, as opposed to the driver leading the horse to where it wants to go. Follow what I'm saying? I learned this many years ago. And when I came across this, it changed my life. Seriously, it changed my life. There's so much chokhmah in this, and it saved my life. Did I say change my life? It changed my life and it saved my life. To learn how to be an observer. It does not make sense for us to be as old as we are, no matter what age we are. We're all adults here now. For us not to know how to control our thinking. It is the biggest tool and the biggest gift Hashem gave us, our mind. It's what differentiates us from animals. Mindful thinking. And it's all over our sources to teach us how to do that. So Bezat Hashem, I'm very excited to share this. And so really, you can help me with this. I don't know how to think about it, because in terms of the business aspect, we're all sending money to all kinds of efforts to save the world right now and save Israel and save the Chayalim. But Shevach needs money to be able to keep, at a certain point, the money's going to run out, and it's like, okay, then what? So, like whatever it is, there is a price on the website for this course. If you need financial assistance, just press the financial assistance. I want this, it's more important for this course to be taught than not taught, okay? And Hashem should bless us, the money should come if anybody wants to sponsor it, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? So in the chat, I placed the donation button and the course link. It's a schedule, but you'll figure out from the website how to, of course. Anyway, be in touch with me. Love you all. Thank you for being here with me, allowing me to share this. How come I can't find the chat anymore? You still see the chat? Did I get rid of the chat? Show chat previews. I don't know. The chat seemed to have like disappeared from me here.
Do you see the 3 dots for more? It may be hiding there.
Oh, now I saw it. Now I saw it. Okay. Does somebody want to say something to the chat? I love you. Oh, Maya says she loves me. Okay, good. Okay, so thank you so much. Kol Tuv. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Yeshuv Eretz Yisrael. We're back on schedule. Join us. I'll place it on the chat.